The winds of change are blowing across Africa once again, and this time they are shaking the very foundations of the global financial order. For decades, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank have controlled the purse strings of African development. They've dictated the terms of loans, imposed crushing austerity measures, and kept entire nations dependent on foreign aid. But now, something historic has happened. The Sahel Alliance, made up of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, has announced the creation of their very own development bank, a bold and unprecedented move designed to finally break free from the West's grip. This decision has stunned the world. Western media barely covered it, but within Africa the news spread like wildfire. Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, Assimi Goïta of Mali, and Abdourahmane Tiani of Niger stood side by side in Niamey, declaring that Africa would no longer wait for outsiders to dictate its future. "We will finance our own development," Traoré said in his fiery address, "and no longer be enslaved by debt that only benefits others." The announcement is more than just symbolism. It's a direct challenge to the IMF and the World Bank, institutions that have long been accused of keeping Africa under a new kind of financial colonialism. According to the African Development Bank, more than 22 African countries are currently either in debt distress or at high risk of it, with a huge portion of their debt owed to Western lenders and institutions tied to the IMF. This new Sahel Development Bank is designed to function as a sovereign financial shield. Instead of borrowing with harsh conditions attached, such as privatizing state assets, cutting subsidies, or freezing wages, the bank will pool resources from member states, attract investments from sympathetic allies like Russia and China, and fund projects that actually serve the people. It's a radical departure from the old model, where Africa was told what to build, how to build it, and who should profit from it. But this isn't just about money. It's about sovereignty. For years, leaders like Traoré have argued that Western control of financial institutions is just another weapon of neo-colonialism. And he's not alone. According to a 2022 UNCTAD report, African countries pay an average of 8.5% interest on external debt, compared to less than 1.5% for Western countries. This massive gap shows how the global financial system is tilted against the global South. The West is watching nervously. If this bank succeeds, it could inspire similar initiatives across the continent. Imagine Africa with its own financial networks, no longer begging the IMF for loans, no longer trapped in cycles of austerity, but actually deciding its own economic future. And let's not forget, this move comes just months after the alliance of Sahel states announced a full military pact, effectively replacing French-backed ECOWAS influence with their own sovereign alliance. As Al Jazeera reported in September 2023, the three countries declared that any attack on one will be seen as an attack on all. Now, by creating a development bank, they are extending that unity into the financial sphere. The symbolism is powerful. For decades, France used the CFA franc to control the monetary policy of its former colonies. Even after so-called independence, African nations had to deposit their reserves in the French treasury. Critics called it colonialism by currency. But now, with Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger moving toward their own bank and even considering a new regional currency, France's influence is collapsing. Western analysts are already panicking. The Financial Times recently noted that the Sahel is becoming the epicenter of a new geopolitical contest as Russia and China increase their support for African-led initiatives. China, in particular, is closely watching. Beijing has spent decades funding infrastructure across Africa, but always within the framework of bilateral deals. A regional African development bank outside the IMF could open new doors for China to invest without Western oversight. And then there's Russia. Since France's withdrawal, Moscow has strengthened military and economic ties with Burkina Faso and Mali. Analysts say Russia could become one of the bank's earliest backers, offering financial aid or energy deals in exchange for diplomatic influence. For Traoré, Goïta, and Tiani, that support could be the lifeline they need to launch projects without Western interference. But let's be clear, the risks are enormous. Setting up a bank is one thing, keeping it solvent is another. Critics point out that the combined GDP of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is less than $60 billion, a fraction of what a global lender like the World Bank manages. Will investors trust a bank controlled by 3 military governments under constant Western pressure? Will ordinary Africans see real benefits? Or will this be another elite project? Still, the symbolism alone is shaking the world. According to Reuters, West African nations have been increasingly vocal about the failures of Western financial institutions. In 2022, Ghana and Zambia both defaulted on their debt, sparking widespread anger at how the IMF handled restructuring. That anger has fueled leaders like Traoré, who framed this bank not as a gamble, but as a necessity. In his latest address, Traoré made it clear, if we wait for the IMF or the World Bank to save us, we will wait forever. The time has come to save ourselves. Whether or not this bank succeeds, one thing is undeniable. Africa's financial rebellion has begun. For the first time in decades, leaders are openly rejecting the idea that the West should hold the keys to development. Instead, they are writing their own rules, on their own terms. And that's why the Sahel Development Bank is not just about money. It's about dignity, independence, and the rebirth of a continent that has been held back for too long. So the question now is, will this bank become Africa's financial weapon of liberation, or will Western powers crush it before it even begins? Stay tuned, because this is only the beginning of a revolution that could reshape not just Africa, but the balance of global power itself. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.